Hello my peeps! Welcome to my annual video about Fringe. This year I am bringing it to you much sooner than normal because in the past years some people were a bit cross with me because I brought the video about Fringe when Fringe was already on, and I think that a lot of you have questions about planning for Fringe and a lot of you want to visualize what you should prepare for. Of course, for that I would also recommend going back to some of my older Fringe videos like this one or this one, just kind of to check out what Fringe looks like, especially if this is going to be your first time ever. But if you don't have time, you can just stick with me for this video. We're going to be talking about what there is to look forward to, what are some key themes, also how accessible Fringe is, what not to forget, what always have on you when you're having your best Fringe time, and some other tips and insights that I think will be very helpful for anyone who is planning their first ever Fringe festival, or anyone who maybe was here a couple of years ago but it's been a while and maybe they need a little refresher, and of course everyone who is simply planning to come to Edinburgh or Scotland in August, and Fringe and the whole festival season just happens to be kind of incidental to it all, because I have seen a lot of people who simply come to Edinburgh in August not realizing just how much of a chaos this whole thing brings into just everyday existence in this city. The reason why this video is coming out now is that about a week ago, the Fringe Bible came out, ASMR. But before we talk about it some more, I just want to share some interesting facts about Fringe 2024. This year there's going to be 3,317 shows in total. Those will be seen over 262 different venues in this town, and out of that almost 40% is comedy, about 27% is theater, so the less fun sibling of comedy, and just over 10% is musical performances. And you're probably thinking to yourself, like, there's some percentages unaccounted for, and those are the other categories. As you can tell here in the program, each one of these color schemes represents a different type of performance. Also, what is very cool is that almost 350 shows are a part of the free Fringe, so absolutely free apart from anything you'd like to donate, and nearly 600 are listed as pay what you can or pay what you want. The wonderful Fringe people also point out some key themes every year. This year we have a couple. One of them is climate and sustainability. One of the shows that I noticed that kind of plays with that theme is one about an immortal jellyfish trying to find love while the end of the world is happening. So that's interesting. Another theme is sport. I didn't think I would like any of the sport themed shows, at least like not on paper. But one of them is one where wrestlers reenact Nordic mythology. I think I will be seeing that. That sounds amazing. Then we also have the theme of cooking and world heritage. For that you can visit, let's say, Shakespeare for breakfast, for pentameter puns and pastries. Another one is the female experience. For this one, let me recommend a show that I've seen before, but it is a Fringe premiere. This is my friend's show. It's called Burnout. It's coming all the way from Prague. It's kind of about the state of modern dating, and I've been out of that marketplace for almost 13 years now, so you would think that it's not going to be relatable to me, but it was fantastic last time I saw it, so I can't wait to see it again. Next theme I also have a personal tip for. This is neurodiversity and neurodiverse-led works. I believe that this theme was present last year as well, and I do have a friend, Nicole. You probably remember I did a little kind of behind the scenes with a Fringe artist video with her last year. This is it. Go watch it, because I think it's really fascinating to see what it's like to actually be a Fringe artist. Anyway, go watch that, but also go get tickets for her follow-up show. The original was called Why Am I Like This? This one is called Why Am I Still Like This? And it is continuation of her work about lived experience as a woman with ADHD. So if you yourself identify as that, or you have friends and family who do have ADHD, this might really help to broaden your horizons and your understanding of those people who presumably you care about and love. Okay, now let's dive into some questions you might have about Fringe and the practicalities of it. So first up, let's go back to the Fringe guide. I'm always so excited when this comes out, and a lot of people always ask me, wait, where did you get this? Like, how do I get this? How do I get my paws on this? And myself, I basically always go to the Waterstones on Princess Street. The Fringe website does have a little map, and apparently the amount of places where you can get this kind of like goes up as you get closer to the actual Fringe dates, which is between 2nd and 26th of August. Just in case you missed it on the program. You can also get them in a lot of central, like smaller Tesco's. But Waterstones is good for this because they also have a lot of programs, printed out programs for the other festivals, like the Book Festival and the Edinburgh International Festival. You can also, however, go on the Fringe website and actually order one of these online. It does take a week or two to have this delivered, so if you want to have a lot of time to peruse, I would recommend doing that like right now as you're watching this. But do you actually need it? Well, I would say, despite obviously many of us now have like an environmental anxiety, and this is a lot of paper, I get that you might not want to just like go for this straight away, but this is gonna be your friend for the whole like 3 weeks, especially, you know, if you're staying for 3 weeks. Many of you will probably stay for shorter than that, but if you do have the opportunity to get this before the festival starts, you're probably gonna have a much better time going through this, like flipping through the pages, looking for shows that look interesting to you, than if you are kind of only limiting yourself to either the app or the web. And if it's your first one, then it's also a souvenir. You should keep it forever. Are there any shows I shouldn't miss? I think this is a tricky question because many people will tell you that's not what Fringe is about, but there are a couple of, you know, like celebrity comedians who are coming over and you might want to know about them, so I will mention them. For example, we have Sue Perkins, we have Nish Kumar, we have Miriam Margolyes and Adam Kay. All of those people are coming over. Usually those big names are playing for like a shorter amount of time, so if any of these people fall into like your bucket of people you just like must see, then you should get the tickets ASAP. But in general, like if someone is that well known, you know that you will be able to get a lot of their performances, you know, accessible even through like streaming or just online on YouTube. So in a way, seeing those smaller acts is a lot more special because, and like especially if it's like an international act, you might not be able to access their work anywhere else but on Fringe. And also a little Fringe bonus for me is that I always get excited about this. Like unlike when, let's say, Taylor Swift came for her concert during her Eras tour, you know, 2 weeks ago, and I don't really think she was like doing anything in Edinburgh. I think a lot of people made like jokes about it, like memes, but I don't think that she was actually like out and about in Edinburgh, which is understandable. I think she would just probably get like jumped by the mobs, so like that's understandable. When it comes to a lot of like especially like UK-based actors or like smaller comedians who might not even have a show at the Fringe, you will see a lot of like famous faces, usually not like extremely famous, but someone who you've seen in a movie or like a very popular TV shows. You just run into them during the Fringe and they're just having a great time, just like you are. They are kind of like being a part of the whole like cultural melange, and I love that. So, you know, if you meet someone, maybe don't bother them too much so they can actually enjoy Fringe just like you're trying to. But you know, this is probably hypocritical of me because I know that there is a couple of people who, if I ran into during the Fringe, I would absolutely bother them. Like, I would bother them hard. So how do I find good shows? There are pretty much 3 good strategies for finding good shows. First one, this is my favorite, but I think that this one works the best if you're a local or if you're someone who kind of lives in a short vicinity from Edinburgh. So usually it works great if you just do have a lot of time and a lot of access to Edinburgh and Fringe and all the other festivals, which is embracing the chaos, walk into the city centre and just exist there and like let people come to you, because performers and like leafletters will come up to you and try to sell you their shows, and in my experience you can from that interaction already tell if that show is going to be your vibe, or maybe you will just really like the person, and even if what they do in their show doesn't sound interesting, maybe now you just like this person and you want to support them with a fiver. Strategy number 2 is getting knees deep into this guide and kind of going after things that you're interested in, like themes. For example, for me, I often go through this and I find Dungeons and Dragons stuff, or video game stuff, or just kind of movie spoofs. I really enjoy those. If you've been around this channel, you know that I love Dream Gun. They are, after last year when they were not on the Fringe, they are coming back. They're doing Dracula, which I'm so excited for. I'm definitely, after I make this video, I am off to the Fringe website and I'm getting my Dracula tickets. Oh no, now I just kind of doxed myself. If you want to say hi, go see Dracula from Dream Gun, because I think they're only playing that on one date. I literally just randomly opened this guide and found a show that's called Live Manga. This is family friendly too, so it's not gonna get too weird, unlike my actual manga collection. Anyway, yeah, so as you can see, this is just full of cool stuff. Just think about your interests, think about what sort of theme you'd be into, find yourself a couple of shows. I think this is a great way of doing it if you also want to get some cheapo tickets. More on that later. I'm gonna get back to how to get cheaper tickets. And strategy number 3 is just wait for the reviews to roll in. I think this one is great if you're coming maybe in the second or third of Fringe, because at that point you already know. You will notice that a lot of the street posters will now have the reviews over them, and of course, there's gonna be reviews online, things like that. At that point, it will become very easy to suss out what are the big shows for this season, the things that, it's really hard to tell beforehand, so you do have to come a bit later and kind of, either just look at the posters or ask people. People will often be able to tell you what is the groundbreaking thing this season. If you're coming earlier, then you are the trendsetter. That's exciting too. Is there anything new at the Fringe in 2024 compared to last year? So I haven't noticed that many things that are new compared to last year. Things even in the program and kind of generally how they work and how tickets are bought seem to be pretty much the same. Now Fringe has its own app. I do recommend getting it because you will be able to kind of have a compilation of all of your tickets in there. But that obviously every year gets a bit of a facelift. It gets some extra features. I believe this year they are bringing in a new feature that kind of lets you shake your phone and you get a random show recommended to you, which is top tier chaos, and you know that I do like the chaotic approach to Fringe, so in a way I think that that's them knowing their audience. Just go for something completely random. I will probably try that. There's also a small number of new venues. From the top of my head, I can remember the number 11 brasserie just off London Road is now a venue, and I think that someone on Buccleuch Street has a show that takes place in a bathtub, and it's a one-person audience show. I don't know if that should really count as a venue, but it was listed on the press release, so someone's bathtub is a new venue for 2024. Okay, so I have been hinting at how to save money. I have kind of mentioned some of the ways, but I didn't go much in depth, which is what I'm gonna do now. Okay, so first of all, there are plenty of free and pay what you want shows. Those are obviously the cheapest option. I think that if you have a lot of time but maybe not enough money, I think the free Fringe can be a really fun way of enjoying the atmosphere. Also, you will find that a lot of the shows, especially the ones that are either kind of focusing on the first half of the festival or the whole festival, do actually start before the festival starts. So you will have some preview shows. Those tend to happen on 31st of July and the 1st of August. So those 2 days before the official start of Fringe. And usually you get like 30% cheaper tickets for that. I would say if you do that, it is now your responsibility to write a review for those people, especially if you like them. So yeah, with great prices comes great responsibility. Then I believe that's a weekend on the 5th and 6th. Those are 2 days where you can get the 2-for-1 tickets. So if you're here around the start, do take advantage of that, because it will kind of also create a bit more buzz around some of these shows. And after the 6th, so from the 7th onwards, there's also gonna be the half price hut. This is at the old Assembly Close Fringe box office, and every day there will be thousands of tickets at half price. So this is also great for anyone who perhaps has more time and flexibility. I think that if you're just kind of out and about and maybe you have like a free afternoon, you just grab the drink, and maybe the weather's not great, just, you know, pop into there, get yourself a ticket for something, and it's probably gonna be like, you know, 4 to 6 quid, and that's pretty good. And of course, another thing you can enjoy for free is the street events, and there's a plenty of those. It's one of those quintessential Fringe things that you're walking up Royal Mile, kind of like the upper part of it, and you just get to watch a lot of performers, musicians and like jugglers, magicians, all of that, just kind of like among all the leafletters. It's again beautiful chaos. It can be overwhelming. It's not something you want to do every day, but it's there. So yeah, and it's free. It's good for photography. I would recommend, if you're doing some photography, then that's a great place to do it, as long as you don't mind that people will probably be bumping into you. Now, how accessible is Fringe? I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that almost 60% of all of the performances are wheelchair accessible. It is surprising, especially when you realize just how freaking medieval the whole area of especially Old Town can be. So one thing is that the event spaces might be accessible, but then some areas are not the most friendly. The Fringe headquarters also offers sensory packs, so for anyone who might get overwhelmed or someone who might be seeking some extra sensory stimulation, they will have packs with like ear defenders and like fidget toys, things like that. And one thing that I noticed recently is that, especially for the ones of you who also have like social anxiety, and maybe you are avoiding some of the comedy shows because you're afraid of audience interaction, and I get that. I'm in the same boat with you. I noticed that lately, when you're being leafleted, you can either ask the people or they will themselves kind of warn you. I like that. I like that sometimes they say like there's some audience interaction, and if you do want to be a part of that, sit here and here, and if you want to avoid that, sit like on the side and on the back, because they know that they're just like not gonna pick someone from those areas. And I find that really good. There is a bit of a warning, and I think that nowadays it is completely fine to ask about it too. Now, let me grab a thing. If things like this are a worry for you, I also recommend you bring your sunflower lanyard. If you're not from the UK, this is a part of a hidden disability scheme. So basically the idea is that whatever physical or mental health disability you might need some special allowances for, this is to signal to other people that that's the case. You can also obviously get some sort of little card on it that will be more specific about your disability, but also even if you don't have anything on it, people will kind of like, you know, clock that and know that you might need extra time, or you might not want to be a part of the audience interaction. If you are local, you can order these for like a £5, and if you're not local, I would still recommend looking into getting one online if you feel like you might need it. These are also really handy for like airports, trains, anything like that. They are widely sort of understood in the UK. So yeah, get your lanyard. Also, I've read that there's a couple of street performances where there are British Sign Language interpreters joining in. I do realize that if you're from abroad, that might not be quite good enough for you, but just so you know, if you do understand British Sign Language, then look those up. Is there anything I should bring with me to a Fringe outing? Okay, so outside of things that are very specific to you, which I can't really give you tips on, I would say me personally, but I think that this is actually pretty universal. Like, it's August, everyone's already warm, and these venues, they get hot. Like, they are small, you know, you stick 100 people in there, it gets busy, you know, people are laughing and already kind of like warm, there's a lot of body heat coming out of them. So I think that it's really good to always have some water and a fan on you, maybe a paper fan over like an electric fan, just so you don't create too much like noise. Like, that might go against the show, I guess depends on the show, but still, I think that the paper fan, which takes up like minimal space anyway, and a water bottle are two things that I would definitely bring. Don't forget that around Edinburgh there's many outlets for free Scottish water, which we all know is the most delicious of waters. So, you know, this is your reminder to taste test it if you're not local. Yummy. Also, especially if you're planning to go to some of the performances that are part of the free Fringe, it's good to have a little bit of cash, just so, you know, you can actually tip the performers after the show. Often they do have card readers these days. I mean, you know, it would be somewhat stupid for them not to, but there might still be times when that happens. So I think that if you want to be super polite, have like a, you know, couple of fivers on you or something like that. And I would also really recommend having like a small foldable picnic sheet, you know, like one of those kind of plastic Japanese style ones, because those take no space at all. They're essentially plastic but quite large. So if you have one of those on you, you will maximize the amount of just space you can spend time at, because it does get busy. So especially kind of during the peak of Fringe, it can be a daunting task to like find some space to sit and eat or drink. So having a little bit of your own space that you can like take to a park, especially after it's been raining, which honestly is most of the time, is really practical. So that would be another one of my pro tips. How to plan a Fringe day well. Okay, two things to keep in mind. First one, do not underestimate just how much longer Fringe makes it to get from point A to B. Even if you're kind of like mostly local, or even if you've been to Edinburgh before, in August around the city centre, so like around the sort of like wider area where Fringe shows take place, it can take, you know, like 30-40% more time to get from point A to B to C. Honestly, if you're on foot, it can be a bit better, albeit a bit frustrating, like definitely a bit more like anger generating. But if you're in a cab or bus, it will take longer than expected. I'm not quite sure if like Google Maps do adjust to that in August, but I would give yourself enough time. When you make your bookings, do double check where those venues are. Sometimes like if you just try to like trust your brain and your memory and like kind of think to yourself like, oh, I was in that venue last year, so that was right next to this one. The venues sometimes shift from year to year, so again, do not underestimate the chaos. Do double check how far these are from each other, and I just think like you really shouldn't like totally like back-to-back shows anyway, like that sounds very exhausting. But yeah, there's a danger of missing out. And the other thing to keep in mind is that there is a lot happening just kind of between the venues. You know, there's just so much like food and street performance and just kind of general good vibe to take in that I think that it's better not to overstretch yourself when it comes to booking shows. Like I think that like 3 shows in a day sound really good to me. Like that's probably the maximum of what I would do. I mean, do I know people who can do 6 shows in a day? Yes. Am I scared of them? Also yes. What can I do when I get overwhelmed by the Fringe madness? Yeah, let's finish on this one, because as you know, one of my favorite pastimes is just finding ways of avoiding crowds. So I am somewhat of an expert here. Now, if you want to stay within Edinburgh, I think that there's always going to be areas that will be a lot less fringy. You know, you have Leith, you have Brunsfield. However, I do think that still those areas are a lot busier during August than they would be any other month. So do not expect them to be just as pleasant as they usually are. My surely at this point unsurprising tip number 2 would be Glasgow, because if you're visiting Edinburgh, I know that a lot of you I can see, I see you. A lot of you have never actually been to Glasgow. It's like 40-50 minutes away on train. And I imagine that if you're here for Fringe for like a couple of days, after a couple of days, you're gonna be just totally spent. You're gonna be totally burnt out, and you will be looking for somewhere that's like a fun, like vibrant city. You will want to like just go to a museum or a gallery, or like eat somewhere nice without having to compete with all these other people. And Glasgow is perfect for that, because nobody seemingly wants to go there. And that's stupid, because Glasgow is amazing. Yeah, you have galleries, you have great food, you have great bakeries, and also you can go to one of their huge parks, you know, go to Polk Park, go see some coos. Chef's kiss. Also, East Lothian. You can travel the other way. You can travel to the east, either by bus or by train. This is a great kind of relatively affluent area just outside of Edinburgh, with a lot of very picturesque towns. I think that one of the easiest trips would be going to North Berwick, but there's also Haddington, which is a bit closer. You know, you can get there by bus. There's also Preston Pans, where you can get the most beautiful fish and chips with the most great view over Edinburgh. Although, now that I'm saying it, I'm realizing that maybe that very fish and chips truck kind of moves into Edinburgh for the Fringe, so double check before you go there. North Berwick is great. They do have the Seabird Centre and like a lot of stuff to see. You can climb the North Berwick Law. Okay, I think that is it for me for my tips for Fringe 2024. There's definitely something I forgot about. I mean, I did not cover any of the big basics along the lines of like where to stay, because if you're watching this now with like 6 weeks to go, there won't be anywhere to stay. Just if you can always like look at places in like maybe like Falkirk or Glasgow, because the commute would be doable. Another thing that sometimes people ask about is like making reservations for restaurants. I guess that realistically, I would recommend making that reservation as far in advance as possible, because again, August is the peak. Like, there are so many people. I believe that one of the pre-COVID years, the amount of people in Edinburgh for Fringe was almost like double of what the actual population of Edinburgh is. So you can imagine that kind of messes with the capacity. It makes sense that you do have to book things more in advance for that sort of situation. Okay, if there's any other questions that you think I might be able to answer, or if you have any other tips you'd like to share with both me and other people who are part of this community, let me know in the comment section. I always read all my comments. I don't always react to all of them. It takes a lot of time. And of course, if you're rude, then I might react if you make me very angry. But usually I just leave it and then I go meditate. Anyway, if you like this video, if you found it helpful, if you appreciate the prep, the effort that goes into my videos, don't forget that I have a Patreon page now. You can visit me here. The idea is that you can get a monthly free bonus video if you become a part of that particular tier. There's also other tiers. In some of the tiers you can get free merch, or you can even get some free illustrations of whatever you want, as long as it's not too rude. And of course, my Instagram. That's also an easy place to say hi. Either kakibot for my illustrations or kakiblog for my photography and just general life in Edinburgh and some tips on where to eat and such. Okay, that is it from me about Fringe 2024. That's a lie. I'm definitely going to be bringing you more videos about Fringe, because it takes a month and it's all over the place, so it's hard to avoid. So yeah, there will be more Fringe content when Fringe actually happens in about 6 weeks. Hopefully you're looking forward. I'm also looking forward. I'm actually very excited now that I finally have my guide. I can't wait to go through this and highlight everything. Okay, getting too excited and just kind of, you know, going on a bit of a mental walkabout here. Sorry for that. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you soon, possibly at Fringe. Bye.